outside? Should I run and hide? How do I take my company worldwide? Do you love the law? Did you watch Hee-Haw? What's the weirdest thing that you ever saw? What's it like in court? Favorite sport? Can you help with my book report? Is my hair too long? Am I right or wrong? And do you mind if I sing along to anything? Ask Alan anything in the world.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Ask Alan, the podcast. I'm Alan Crone, the CEO of the Crone Law Firm. And today I've got a stupendous guest. How about that word, stupendous? You don't hear that very much anymore, but it's a great word. And this guy is the personification of stupendous. Paul Young, the president of the Downtown Memphis Commission. Paul, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be with you today.
I tell you, I'm jealous of you. You've got one of my dream jobs. I've always loved downtown. Since I was a little kid, my mother would bring us downtown. We go to the Cossett Library and down to the cobblestones and the different parks. I would pretend to shoot cannons off of Fourth Bluff Park back in the day, and I just love downtown. So tell me a little bit. I mean, you've been on the job. Have you been? How long have you been president? I know with the pandemic, it all kind of runs together for me.
It does run together, but I remember distinctly. It was April 2021, so I've been here for about a year. Well, a little bit over a year. So it's been amazing. The job is just as you explained. It's a dream job. It's an opportunity to work in the most important neighborhood in our region, and that's coming from somebody who worked in housing and community development, who understands the value that all of our neighborhoods bring to our city and our community. But the reason I call it the most important is that it's the only neighborhood that's everybody's neighborhood. And when you think of it in that way, everybody owns a little bit of downtown. Everybody comes to downtown. Everybody should be welcome in downtown with different events, activities, none more relevant in our minds than what we just saw over the past month and a half with the Grizzlies in the playoffs. I mean, we had so many people that were coming downtown and having a good time and cheering on the Grizzlies. It really was emblematic of what we want downtown to feel like, even on a non-Grizz playoff game day.
Yeah, I can attest to that. My office is downtown, and it's just so great, particularly after the pandemic, to see tourists and people from, you can tell they're not from Memphis, down here, and they're having a great experience in downtown Memphis.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many people that shape their perception of Memphis, of our whole region, based on their experience in downtown Memphis. I often tell people about the Ford executives, who I didn't know. I didn't even know they were touring downtown and staying in downtown Memphis when they were in this national competition to review where they were going to make this $5.6 billion investment. They stayed right here in downtown Memphis. And so they based their decision based on their experiences in downtown Memphis. Their whole perception of the region was shaped by what they felt when they came into the city. And so it's really, really important that we put our best foot forward in downtown, and great things are happening right now.
You know, different folks will describe downtown differently. I've heard some people say, you know, downtown is the living room of the city. Other people, the riverfront is the front porch and so forth. But it's really all about branding. And, you know, if you and our audience members would kind of mentally close your eyes and think of Chicago, think of Miami, think of St. Louis or Dallas, your mental image is their downtown.
Right.
And so that's so important for our brand to be strong where everybody envisions it first, which is downtown Memphis.
That's right. I mean, I use all those things that you just said about it being the living room, the riverfront's our front door. All those things are really, really important. What we want to do is make sure that we are known as a city for having strong culture, having good times, the barbecue and the blues. We keep that brand as well, but we want to be known as a forward-thinking, progressive city and one of the most fun and interesting places in the United States, and definitely along the Mississippi River.
Well, I know that your commission has an official definition of downtown where you're really active. Where can you describe those boundaries for our listeners?
Yeah. So obviously the riverfront is the westernmost boundary, but we go down south to about Crump. We go up north to all the way to Wolf River. So we get a good portion of North Memphis and Uptown that's in that area. We go as far east as Danny Thomas. And if you think of that as one box like that, Wolf River, Riverfront, Crump, Danny Thomas, then we have this arm that goes into the medical district. So once you go past Danny Thomas, bounded by Poplar on the north, and I think it's MLK on the south, it goes out to about Watkins.
So it's a pretty good swath of land. You know, what the
6.1 square miles, and all of the commercial property owners that have properties that are valued more than $25,000, they pay an assessment. It's almost like an HOA fee. So they pay their city taxes, their county taxes, and they pay what we call the CBID, Central Business Improvement District assessment. And that's what funds DMC. I often hear, and even when I was at HCD, we would often hear, we need an organization like Downtown Memphis Commission in every neighborhood. And I agree, it would be great to have, but the difference between what DMC is and what other nonprofits are is that we have that sustainable revenue stream through that funding mechanism. And unless the businesses are prepared to make that same investment, it'll be difficult to get the same type of organization to be operating in all of our neighborhoods.
All right, well, let's talk about a few projects. I know that one that's near and dear to both of our hearts, we both worked on it over the years, and that's 100 North Main. The Daily Memphian has run a couple of stories over the last few weeks. Tell me about the status of the 100 North Main building.
Yeah, so the 100 North Main is moving forward. I met with the selected development team. Kevin Woods and Billy Orville met with them a couple of weeks ago, and they are fired up. They're still finishing some of their reviews. They're a couple $100,000 in to all types of facility assessment, environmental reviews, looking at what it's really going to take to bring this property to life. But they feel very confident that they're going to move forward. So we're hoping to bring something to our board in the next couple of months, probably July, August timeframe is when we'll go back to the board with a formal development agreement, really locking in them as the developers.
What do you think is a realistic time frame for completion on something like that?
Yeah, so assuming all goes well, you're going to have a 2-year construction period. They would probably start somewhere in early to mid 2023, getting all their financing and all of their incentives and things approved. We probably could get incentives approved this year, this calendar year, and then early 23 start, 2025 completion date.
Tell me about the decision to redevelop that building rather than just tear it down or leave it the way it is for maybe future development.
Yeah, I mean, without going too in depth on the background, but it was a building that was owned by somebody that was not going to act on the property, and the city DMC had to come together and figure out what can be done. Made the decision that it's worth saving. It's the tallest building in downtown Memphis. It's a defining feature of our skyline, 37 stories. And we know that you could tear it down and you could build a mid-rise, 8-story building and it will be fine. You can get a development done. But for us in Memphis, we don't want our downtown to feel like any city USA. We want our downtown to feel like Memphis. And history is a part of that. So preserving historic structures, you can't save them all. But when you have some that are that significant, it's really, really important. And so, we made that clear when we put out the competitive RFP that we wanted to find responses where people are looking to save the building, and that's what we got.
Well, and you got a good development team between Kevin Woods and Billy Orville. Billy particularly, who's got a lot of experience in rehabbing historic Memphis, if you will. And what are they looking project out 2 or 3 years in the future. What are we going to be looking at in that spot?
Yeah, so on the lower floor, you'll see retail, commercial spaces, whether they're restaurants or fitness centers or whatever they want to put in those retail bays. Something that's activated to the street. Go a little higher up, you're going to see some hotel rooms, at least 150 or so hotel rooms. Go a little higher up, you'll see a little bit of office space. The city of Memphis committed to occupying 60,000 square feet. So they'll have some offices in there, giving you that daytime activity. And then you'll go a little higher up and you'll see apartments. And now they're even exploring potentially some condos in there with the apartment. So getting some ownership in the building. And then go to the top of the building. Many may remember the rotating restaurant. They want to restore that restaurant and make it a public space, which will really be a defining feature of the structure.
A lot of people don't realize that the roof has access, right? I mean, there's like a Japanese garden out there, or
it's a Japanese garden. It's a really cool garden. I'm not quite sure what they'll do with that space, but they have said that they want to make sure that it's accessible. So they want to activate the roof and have some of the most beautiful views in the city right here in downtown Memphis.
Well, I remember as a kid, my grandfather took me up to that restaurant, and I thought the reason they called it the 100 North Main building was that it was 100 stories tall. And to a little kid, I was probably 5. I felt like I was 100 stories up in the air up there. So it'd be great to reactivate that for visitors and native Memphians.
Absolutely. And right now the elevators don't work. So every time I've gone to the top of the building, it's definitely felt like 100 stories. So you can climb those 37 stories by step.
I bet. Well, that's a good workout, I suppose. They're paying big bucks for that, for Stairmasters and that sort of thing.
I know, right?
You got your own right there. All right. So what else is exciting going on in Memphis that we can talk about?
So there's a lot going on downtown. The Hyatt Centric is already open, but the Hyatt Grand 350 room hotel, Carlisle team is getting really close on that one. So we're excited to see that project moving forward. You got the Walk, that project that we talked about back in late 2018, 2019. They are still moving forward. They're finalizing all of the financing. Really excited to see that project come out of the ground. You have Tom Lee Park, which we can't forget about how historic this is going to be to have this $60 million investment along our riverfront, creating a world-class public space right along the Mississippi River. It will be the most creatively used, beautiful space along the Mississippi River. So I'm super excited about that. And Brooks Museum, all of these things and this is just a few things that are underway, not to mention all of the smaller buildings that are being renovated and retrofitted for activation.
Yeah, there are a bunch of projects just on my street here. I think it's a fitness center, the mall at Union. In fact, as I was getting my morning coffee this morning, I was looking down and they're working on the HVAC, and I think that's coming together. I remember you and I are fairly close in age, and Memphis is always downtown has always been a really tough Rubik's Cube to figure out politically, because in the late 60s, 70s, everybody wanted it to kind of revert to what it was in the 50s, which was, the center of town, and it's not anymore. What's the mission what's your vision, I guess, as a commission for what downtown ought to be?
Yeah, I think the downtowns across the country are becoming more diverse. Back in the 40s and 50s, it was the center of commerce where, you had office buildings, you had a lot of the cotton trade, all those things were taking place downtown. Now you have some of that, but you also have a lot more residential. It's now the center of entertainment for the city. And so diversity is the key for us. And it's the key in many cities. When you have the diversity of uses, you have a stronger economy. You have daytime population and you have nighttime population, which means those small businesses that locate in downtown have client bases that they're not solely dependent on the office crowd. Because I would imagine in those days, back in the day, that at night it was a little bit quieter downtown because a lot of people returned back to their home. Now you're going to have people returning home from their jobs out east, and you'll have the people that have offices going back out east. And so we have this circulation in our economy so that we're all supporting each other as a community.
What do you make of this trend that, I guess first, would you consider this a trend? It appears to me that there are a lot of office buildings in downtown Memphis that are going condo or apartments. In other words, going from office to residential. What do you think that's a trend? And if so, what do you think the future holds for that?
I mean, certainly it's been a conversation we've had quite a bit. And I think there are some office buildings that are more suitable for that than others, depending on the size and the scale. And the reason it's happening is because residential is the easiest thing to fill up. Like that's where the numbers work. I think it's still very, very important for us to have great office spaces in downtown, spaces for new businesses and companies to come and locate. So I'm not a fan of immediately jumping to that during the first sign of stress in the office market. Office is changing. And so I still have confidence that downtown will be an attractive market. Downtown is the greatest office campus you can have. You don't have to build your own restaurants for your client base. You just pay for your office space and your when I say client base, I mean employees. Your employees can walk outside and they have access to the riverfront and all types of restaurants. So that's a long way of saying I don't think that we will lose all of our office space. I think you'll see some that will convert, and hopefully they'll convert to condos as opposed to apartments. Apartments are fine, but having those condos brings more diversity in the housing types to downtown. So we want to see a good mix of condos and apartments. Yeah,
condos mean equity. People got a real stake in the community. Yeah, it's an interesting conversation to have, and I know just enough about all of these topics to be dangerous, but you look at office space, commercial space, and I think particularly with office space, people say that companies are going to get rid. I think it's not going to be so much that they get rid of their office space. I think they're going to transform the way they use it.
Yeah, they're going to transform it. They're definitely going to transform it. And I mean, I think coming out of early in the pandemic, there was a lot of people saying office is over. It's over. Everybody's going to work remote. We see that this works. But then the deeper we got into it, I think people realized that you miss some of the magic that happens when you had those creative collisions, just walking down the hallway and you see your colleague and say, hey, I remember I was supposed to talk to you about this. And you exchange ideas in real time. Whereas when you're doing it virtually, it's just a little bit more challenging. I think what we're going to see is more of hybrid models where people have more flexibility with their days. They're not necessarily in the office every day, or they're spending less time in the office or varied hours in the office. And you'll see more gathering spaces in offices, less of the, we need this many offices. You'll see people having larger conference rooms. You'll see, I forget what they call them. Somebody says like hotel spaces where you have a bay with a computer and multiple people use that same bay during the days that they come in, but you'll still see offices.
Yeah, I think you're right. And the point you made, human beings are social creatures, and it's just not natural to be spread out all over the place all the time. And so I think the spaces are going to be more flexible, and so it's just going to have to kind of be rejiggered a little bit to get the right mix of things. But there's nothing like living and working, playing and eating within a mile of where you live, and downtown certainly provides that opportunity for people.
Yeah, and then when I think about the diversity of uses, I talked about it earlier, like having housing, having offices, it also creates more sustainability for us as a downtown. So as you look at those hybrid models, you know, you'll have some people in the offices, but you'll have some people working from home. And if they're doing that downtown for our small businesses that depend on that clientele, the employees of AutoZone or whatever big corporations are downtown, if they're bringing less people in on a daily basis, then that can be offset by those that are working from home on a daily basis that live downtown.
Well, Paul, I could talk downtown with you for hours. We didn't even talk about the big lake that they want to build in the harbor. We touched a little bit about Tom Lee Park. Maybe we'll do a kind of a downtown riverfront symposium. Maybe get you and Carol and some other people in a group to talk about that, because I think that'd be really interesting.
Love to do it. I mean, all of our goal is to just keep pushing downtown. We have to keep thinking outside the box. Every idea that gets recommended, you know, it's not going to have unanimous support across the board. And some of the things, you know, we'll hear from the community and we decide not to do it. But we owe it to our city and to our region to continue to innovate and figure out how we can keep pushing our city further. And downtown is the right place to start.
Well, I'm going to let that be the last word. That was great. And Paul, again, thank you for being on the program, and thank you for your service to Memphis. You mentioned it before, and I just want our listeners to know, Paul was the Director of Housing and Community Development during the first term of the Strickland administration, and did just an absolutely great job helping to develop a lot of our neighborhoods. And now he's doing that in a focused area in downtown. And Paul, we really appreciate your public service.
Thank you. Same to you. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you all very much for listening or watching. If you enjoyed it, and my goodness, why wouldn't you have enjoyed it? Please forward it, share us on social media, get the word out, email it to people. We'd like for as many folks as possible to hear and learn about downtown development. If you have any questions, please email them to me, and we'll be glad to get back to you on that. Paul is going to go back to developing a modern downtown for Memphis, and I'm going to go get some justice. So thank you all very much.